Mics are on.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Newington Town Council regular meeting of Tuesday, December 13th, 2022. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. If you would please rise if you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item is roll call, please, Susan, if you would.
Here.
Draco.
Here.
Councilor Donahue.
Here.
Councilor Rankin. Councilor Nagel.
Here. Here.
Councilor Rada. Here. Mayor Del Buono.
Here. Thank you. Next item this evening is approval of the agenda. I believe we do have one change. Councilor Menke, if you would.
Yeah, if I may, I'd like to table item 4A, retirement of Marie Fox.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Page. Any discussion on this? This is just, Marie was unable to attend this evening, so the family had requested that we just push it off until January, just for the public's knowledge. So that's why we're looking to make this change. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item this evening is awards and proclamations. We do have 4 with us this evening. So once every year, our Parks and Recreations Department gives out the Building a Strong Community Awards. And they bring forward to the council 4 recipients that they would like us to honor. And this evening, we have those 4 proclamations. In the spirit of sharing, I'm going to share with my council, and we're going to take turns reading. There's 4 of us that will do these this evening. So the first one this evening is Happy Harry's Wine and Liquor Warehouse. And I believe Councilor Page, you have that one?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes.
You're welcome. If you would just read it into the record.
Happy to. Proclamation. Whereas the Town Council, the Newington Parks and Recreation Board, and the Parks and Recreation Department has a tradition of annually honoring businesses, volunteers, and/or civic groups that help the department better serve our residents with a Building a Strong Community Special Recognition Award. These recipients will be displayed on the Wall of Honor at the Mortensen Community Center in perpetuity. And whereas the department could not run over 800 programs without the generous donations used to start or enhance various programs, and an abundant number of volunteers to provide many special events and programs. And whereas the board and department measure the benefits to the community in 4 major categories: benefits to the individual, benefits to the community, benefits to the environment, and benefits to the economy. And whereas the Parks and Recreation Department has named Happy Harry's Wine and Liquor Warehouse for the Building a Strong Community Special Recognition Award. And whereas Happy Harry's Wine and Liquor Warehouse has been friends to the Newington Parks and Recreation Department for many years and shows continuous support of the department. And whereas Happy Harry's Wine and Liquor Warehouse oftentimes donates the entire wine list needed to provide over 750 Newington residents, a free glass of wine at the Bring Your Own Cheese BYOC party. And whereas Happy Harry's Wine and Liquor Warehouse is always available to the department to fill in gaps of funding with donations to fulfill the needs of our special events. And whereas Happy Harry's Wine and Liquor Warehouse generously donated the entire inventory of beer, wine, and seltzer for the Water Lantern Festival in an effort to raise more money for fireworks. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby congratulates Happy Harry's Wine and Liquor Warehouse on being named a 2022 Building a Strong Community Special Recognition Award recipient, and recognizes their generosity and support of the Newington Parks and Recreation Department, dated in Newington, Connecticut, this 13th day of December 2022, the Honorable Mayor Beth Del Buono.
For a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Nagel. Any discussion on this one? Sorry, I didn't look. Deputy Mayor Badreko?
Yes, in the body of the proclamation, it indicates that this wasn't just a one-off year, that Happy Harry's has shown continuous support for Parks and Recreation. And with the generous donations of beverages as well as financial assistance that they've helped make many of the events successful. So their continued support has really allowed Parks and Rec to grow and expand the events that they do offer. So the town council, as well as the Newington residents, appreciate the involvement of Happy Harry's and the strong business partnership that's been forged, I think, between Parks and Rec and Happy Harry's. So thank you, Happy Harry's, wherever you are, for your, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were here. Thank you very much, and your generosity is certainly appreciated.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Anyone else? I would just like to add my sincere thanks. It's hard to follow. She kind of touched on a little bit of everything. It's always hard to go last, but it's very obvious that this has been a continued partnership over time with your business, and we greatly appreciate it. And I really, that last line where it said, you know, that you had donated the entire inventory for the Water Lantern Festival in an effort to raise more money for the fireworks, like that says it too. So not only are you helping us in promoting our programs to bring our community together, like the proclamations are about building our community, but also helping us to be able to raise more funds and do more things and more programs. So we greatly appreciate the partnership that Parks and Rec has developed with you and that you with us. And we appreciate that. Thank you very much. We'd like to, do you want to do it?
If you'd like me to, Mayor.
Go right ahead. I'm recovering from knee surgery, so I'm going to let
Of course.
my counterparts take care of it for me.
Presenting you this proclamation and this plaque. And again, thank you very much for everything you've done to bring our community together and to raise funds, as the mayor said, for our fireworks and all the programs we do here in town. It means a great deal. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we would like to move on now. The next recipient is Campbell Cooling LLC. I'm just going to check in the attendees window. I don't think they're with us this evening. I just want to double check.
Their whole family is very sick. So,
Oh, no.
yeah, the kids and the father.
Oh,
and
boy. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and read this and get it voted on, and then we'll make sure that the family receives it as well. Whereas the town council, the Newington Parks and Recreation Board, and the Parks and Recreation Department has a tradition of annually honoring businesses, volunteers, and/or civic groups that help the department better serve our residents with a Building a Strong Community Special Recognition Award. These recipients will be displayed on the Wall of Honor at the Mortensen Community Center in perpetuity. And whereas the department could not run over 800 programs without the generous donations used to start or enhance various programs and an abundant number of volunteers to provide many special events and programs. And whereas the board and department measure the benefits to the community in 4 major categories: benefits to the individual, benefits to the community, benefits to the environment, and benefits to the economy. And whereas the Parks and Recreation Department has named Campbell Cooling LLC for the Building a Strong Community Special Recognition Award. And whereas Campbell Cooling LLC generously donated several $1,000s worth of costs to have up-and-coming superstar, songwriter, and singer Michael Manelli to perform at the 40th anniversary of the Life Be In It extravaganza. And whereas Campbell Cooling LLC's donation covered the cost of band members, sound companies, and more to make Michael Manelli's performance a success. And whereas Campbell Cooling LLC's donation allowed the Newington High School graduate Michael Manelli to come back to Newington for a performance that knocked everyone's socks right off. I like that. And whereas Campbell Cooling LLC has displayed generosity and civic mindedness through their public-private partnership with the department. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby congratulates Campbell Cooling LLC on being named a 2022 Building a Strong Community Special Recognition Award recipient, and recognizes their generosity and support of the Newington Parks and Recreation Department. Dated in Newington, Connecticut, this 13th day of December, 2022, signed by myself, Beth Del Buono, Mayor, on behalf of this town council. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Donahue. Any discussion on this? Sorry. Deputy Mayor Badrego.
Yes, unfortunately, we're missing being able to honor them in person, but as a local and a family-owned business, the past couple of years have been a struggle, I'm sure, and competing in a very difficult environment. But despite this, Campbell Cooling and Heating responded to a request and an opportunity from Parks and Recreation to do something different and exciting for all the residents of Newington by sponsoring this contest. So on behalf of all the residents and the people who attended that concert, thank them for their generosity and their response to doing something for a community which they really are a part of, and wishing that they get better for the holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Anyone else? I would just add my congratulations and thanks to Campbell Cooling. I do know the family, they've been in town for many years, and they are the first ones to step up and offer to help in a pinch whenever anyone needs them. So to see them as a recipient here, and also in addition to what they do for our community otherwise, but also helping Parks and Recreation in our town in general, we greatly appreciate all of your efforts, and I give you my very best wishes. Hope everybody's feeling better soon, and we'll make sure we get this proclamation out to you if you are watching. All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, next this evening is Victor and Donna Fontana. Where are you folks? I thought so, okay. All right. And Gail, you have that one, right?
I have the honor of reading this proclamation. Whereas the Town Council, the Newington Parks and Recreation Board, and the Parks and Recreation Department have a tradition of annually honoring businesses, volunteers, and/or civic groups that help the department better serve our residents with a Building a Strong Community Special Recognition Award. These recipients will be displayed on the Wall of Honor at the Mortensen Community Center in perpetuity. And whereas the department could not run over 800 programs without the generous donations used to start or enhance various programs and an abundant number of volunteers to provide many special events and programs. And whereas the board and department measure the benefits to the community in 4 major categories: benefits to the individual, benefits to the community, benefits to the environment, and benefits to the economy. And whereas the Parks and Recreation Department has named Victor and Donna Fontana for the Building a Strong Community Special Recognition Award. And whereas 20 years ago, Victor and Donna Fontana signed up to volunteer as coaches for their daughter's youth basketball team and have been volunteer basketball coaches for the department ever since. And whereas Victor and Donna Fontana spend countless hours planning basketball drills, creating team lineups, communicating with parents, and working with the Parks and Recreation Department. And whereas Victor and Donna Fontana have not only coached their players on how to work as a team and win games, but have taught them numerous life skills: how to respect each other, try their hardest, and love the game of basketball. And whereas Victor and Donna Fontana have donated countless hours of their time to continue making the youth basketball program successful and emulate the characteristics of building a strong community. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby congratulates Victor and Donna Fontana on being named 2022 Building a Strong Community Special Recognition Award recipients, and recognizes their generosity and support of the Newington Parks and Recreation Department. Dated in Newington, this 13th day of December, 2022, Beth Del Buono, Mayor.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Rada. Discussion on this one. Counselor Mankey?
Yeah, I just would add my congratulations to that of the council. I have some experience working with youth and more importantly, parents. And it's not always easy, but I appreciate the fact that you do this for the town, but also for the youth. And somewhere down the road, it makes a difference. It may not be right away and you may never see it, but somewhere down the road, one of these kids are gonna say, remember what I learned in basketball, not the game, but the life skills. I think that's the important thing that you're instilling in our youth. And I appreciate your efforts on our behalf.
Thank you, Counselor Mankey. Counselor Donahue?
Yeah, I'm gonna hit on some of the same points that Tim hit on, but I coached soccer for 2 years and I almost lost it. So 20 years coaching youth is fantastic and it's a great commitment. And they may not show it now, but they do learn something and you'll see the light switch turn on eventually. But thank you for 20 years of service.
Thank you, Counselor Donahue. Deputy Mayor Badrego?
Yes, 20 years. I'm assuming that your daughters are no longer in the program. But, you can- Okay.
Love it.
But you continue to volunteer and maintain your commitment to the program and your involvement. And volunteers are special. They sacrifice hours and personal time to provide the children of other families with opportunities that they might not have otherwise. And an opportunity to recreate and learn new skills, both basketball specific, but also, as was mentioned in the proclamation, life specific. And those skills are really going to remain with them for a very long time. So on behalf of, I'm sure, countless parents, countless families, countless children in the town of Newington, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just want to quickly add my thanks also as a former girls coach here in Newington too for basketball. I do know what it takes. It takes a lot of passion on your part to be able to, take the ups and downs too that come your way. And to deal with, it's not always happy. There are always children and families that aren't happy, maybe with your playlist, your players' time that you give, or, whether you put a girl in or not, right? So while there's all the positives to it, there's also those other pieces that you have to deal with as a coach. And I know there's a lot of ins and outs to it. And, I always laughed. I was the assistant coach, so I was more of the team building and, working on bringing the team together, and the coach did all the plays. But being a cheerleader is just as important, I told people. So, but I realized that there's more than one aspect to coaching, and I greatly appreciate it. And the volunteerism right there, we struggle nowadays, especially to get volunteers. And so to give that many years, not just for your daughter, but for all the other kids that came through after, that really is a tremendous, tremendous giving on your part. And I'm very appreciative. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Badrego, thank you.
And I'd have your daughter come on.
Yeah.
You started nice.
It's her fault.
Yeah, I just started talking to her again. She's a beautiful thing.
Thank you. All right, next this evening, we're honoring Carol Annis and Diana Sarah. Counselor Mankey?
Whereas the town council, the Newington Parks and Recreation Board, and the Parks and Recreation Department has a tradition of annually honoring businesses, volunteers, and/or civic groups that help the department better serve our residents with a Building a Strong Community Special Recognition Award. These recipients will be displayed on the Wall of Honor at the Warrenton Community Center in perpetuity. And whereas the department could not run over 800 programs without the generous donations used to start or enhance various programs, an abundant number of volunteers to provide many special events and programs. And whereas the board and department measure the benefits to the community in 4 major categories: benefits to the individual, benefits to the community, benefits to the environment, and benefits to the economy. And whereas the Park and Recreation Department has named Carol Annis and Diana Sarah for the Building a Strong Community Special Recognition Award. And whereas Carol Annis and Diana Sarah are best of friends, have both gone above and beyond the call of duty as volunteers for several years. And whereas Carol Annis and Diana Sarah are expert volunteers at the department's largest fundraisers and can always be seen checking IDs, serving beer and wine, and helping to organize all aspects of our Newington Goes Country, Food Truck Friday, and Motorcycle Madness events in June. And whereas Carol Aniston and Diana Sarah never missed an opportunity to volunteer at the Life Be In It extravaganza. Not one, not two, not three, but all 4 nights, and logged in over 35 hours of volunteer work during the summer months. And whereas by volunteering, Carol Aniston and Diana Sarah display civic mindedness, and this allows the department to not have to hire paid staff, therefore raising more money that can go towards paying for the spectacular fireworks show every year. And now for their very resolve, that the Newington Town Council hereby congratulates Carol Aniston and Diana Sarah on being named 2022 Building a Strong Community Special Recognition Award recipients, and recognizes their generosity and support of the Newington Parks and Recreation Department, dated Newington, Connecticut, this 13th day of December, 2022.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Nagel. And discussion on this. Deputy Mayor Budrako.
Okay, if any of us go to any major Parks and Rec event in town, you're sure to see Carol and Diana working the event behind a booth. So it's very obvious that Bill and other members of the Parks and Rec Board have found ways to utilize both of you in individually and in concert. Your organizational skills, your logistical skills, your creativity, and your planning to ensure that there's smooth and effective running of these events. But I think most evident is your, I have to call it infectious enthusiasm that you manage to convey to people when you're working these events. You obviously believe in the cause. And so thanks for giving so freely of your time and talent to events that strengthen our town.
Mankey?
I'd just like to congratulate Carol and Diana, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times for your contributions to our town. Not only in this, but you've contributed to our town in many other ways, and it's nice that you can be recognized in this way. So congratulations.
Thank you, Councilor Mankey. I'd like to add my sincere thanks to both of you. And I love that it said that you're the best of friends, because everybody that knows these guys knows that it's rare to see one without the other at any event in town. And so thank you for all that you do. And I think the infectious piece is true. Your energy is what people are drawn to, and it certainly helps at all these events. So thank you for that. And my only other comment is you're welcome, Bill, because they got sick of us up here and now they're giving you all their time. So thank you both.
Did we vote?
No, we didn't vote. See, I do that all the time. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. I don't want to give it to
Opposed?
him before you vote.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you,
The
Tim.
vote goes the other way.
Keeping me honest.
Goes to-
Awkward.
Fisher?
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Did I mess up and forget to vote on anyone else?
Nope. We're good.
You would have called me out, right? Okay. All right. Next item this evening is public participation. Any member of the public may come forward to speak to the council. If you're in the room and you'd like to come forward to the table here, just state your name and address for the record. We have a 3-minute time limit. And if you are participating by Zoom and would like to participate, we will see you in the participants window if you raise your hand, or on your phone, *9 will do that same function. We do have one hand up. Amy Daniele, it looks like.
Yep, this is Amy Daniele. Can you hear me?
We can. Can you just state your name and address for the record?
My name is Amy Daniele. I live at 212 Eddie Lane.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you. So I'm a clinical pharmacist with 20 years of experience. I have experience specifically in infectious diseases as well, just to put that out there. It is my understanding that the Board of Ed had an opportunity to rewrite their opening plan to include parent choice with regards to masking. And they have not yet done that. And now I'm seeing reports from like New York and other states where they're thinking about remasking their children. So I just want to talk a little bit about what the masks did and what they did not do. So this is from Jay Bhattacharya. He's a Stanford University Medical School professor. And he specifically listed out that long-term mask wearing weakens immune systems. So we harmed our children there. There's a higher risk of respiratory infections with longer term use. They specifically for children delayed speech and development, and they blocked social and emotional cues. So you had delayed social emotional learning for many of our children. What masks did not do is they did not stop transmission. They did not stop infection. They did not do anything that they were purported to do. So what parents need is parents need to have the choice for their children. They need to be able to make that choice within the school system. Mask wearing should be a recommendation and never, ever a mandate again. We need to put our children first. We've placed them on the front lines, and I'm using air quotes, but we've placed them on the front lines of this pandemic in front of all of us for far too long. As a society, we're supposed to stand in front of our children and protect them. And we did not do that during this pandemic. And you could look at all the educational numbers across the nation. Our children have suffered, and largely from mask wearing, our youngest and most vulnerable children. So we need to, as a town and as a community, ensure that our Board of Ed goes ahead and does their due diligence and rewrites their opening plan to ensure that this will never, ever happen again in Newington. I hope and I pray that with the increased knowledge that we now have about COVID, that we will truly look at the science, the real science, the stuff they hid on Twitter, and put our children first. Now, this will take strength of character from each of you and a willingness to do your due diligence and understand the problem before putting our greatest treasures back on the front lines of this issue. So I hope we could all work together as a town and do this for our children.
Thank you, Ms. Daniele.
No problem. Thank you for your time.
I always just like to tell people, as part of our procedure, we don't respond during public participation, but we are able to comment after public participation is over. So just so people understand that. We have someone with us. I'll go right ahead and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Sarah Yiser, and I'm from 54 East Robbins Avenue. Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. I am here to speak tonight about my frustration with Newington's Board of Education as a whole. Since I made my first public participation debut on December 15th, 2021, I've been outspoken about masks, vaccine mandates, and critical race theory. In fairness, Dr. Brumman and I do have a civil relationship. We've had emails back and forth and phone calls and even in-person meetings. But I do have to wonder why elected officials that we vote into office do not have the same type of relationship with their constituents. On February 16th, 2022, I reminded the board of verbiage straight from the ARP Act and ESSER funding. LEAs are required to review and, as appropriate, revise their safe return to in-person instruction and continuity of services plan at least every 6 months through September 30th, 2023, including seeking public input and taking such input into account in determining whether to revise the plan and if revisions are determined necessary. Boards of education were finally able to make decisions for their own town, and I asked that they come up with their own guidance and recommendations with public input, meaning giving parents the choice whether to mask their child or not, and they didn't. And when asked what the metric would be to reinstate masks, no one can answer. We've already seen recommendations become mandates, all for money. Now, here we are having a neighboring state that we seem to follow in their footsteps, wanting to mandate masks again and looking to their boards of education. I've also had the chance to hear members say that they are white and with that comes privilege. And to be honest, I find that offensive. Before I was 18, I lived in 4 different states. I attended numerous elementary and secondary schools, both urban and suburban, and I had my first job at 14 on a farm. So forgive me when I say I am not a white privileged female. I believe teaching awareness versus acceptance are 2 different ideologies. Awareness is knowledge, and acceptance is the action of consent. I brought a school library book to their attention, which was immediately brought to the curriculum committee's attention. This book is a graphic novel that discusses topics such as violence, alcohol, robbery at gunpoint, and a king that gives children's strokes. Would you believe that even after review, the committee kept that book in the elementary school library? And speaking of inappropriateness in schools, why does Ruth Chafee have a bulletin board filled with social media icons, glorifying Snapchat, whose known design is to delete pictures immediately after they've been viewed? I feel confused. Our digital footprints do not get deleted unless we're part of the elite. And not one member questioned the appropriateness of that bulletin board when brought to their attention. And I do understand that you do not have control over the Board of Education, but I thought I would take this opportunity to bring awareness to the situations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mazur. We do have a few hands up in our Zoom window, so let me start with Ms. Lyons.
Hi, Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. I was sorry to see that Marie wasn't feeling up to coming to the meeting tonight. I hope that she's feeling better soon, as I do hope the same for the Campbell family. I was sorry not to be able to see them and congratulate them as well. However, I want to congratulate the other recipients and thank them for what they do for the Parks and Recreation Department and in turn for the residents of the town of Newington. Seeing that James is now our new town manager, I don't want to bore him with my questions during the day, so I will ask this question tonight as to whether or not our ethics board has been fully filled and when might we expect to see a meeting of that board in order to elect a chairman. And finally, if I don't make it through this meeting, which I hope to, I just want to wish you all a healthy and happy holiday season and a happy and healthy new year. Take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rose, you too.
Thanks, Rose.
Okay, we have another hand up, which is Melissa Capilucci Tolosano.
Sorry, that's the way my Zoom shows up. It's Melissa Tolosano. You're welcome. I live at 58th Street. Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. I first want to start off by saying that I do have a grave concern for the crime happening in Newington, especially concerning the drive-by shooting that did occur on 8th Street where I live at 7 p.m. in a neighborhood full of many families and children. And a lot of my concern arises with the ability of Newington Police to be able to actually perform their job with limitations under the State Police Accountability Act. Minors are performing these crimes without any consequences, allowing for repeat offenders. They may be processed with charges and quickly released, but what are we doing at like the town level? And we need more people to stand up at the state level with concern with this Police Accountability Act and the crime happening, not in just our town, but many surrounding towns as well. I have also been speaking at Board of Education meetings for 2 years now, and I do have some concerns with the fact that I really feel like their personal agendas are playing more of a role with considering policy and procedure for our schools rather than what is actually best for students. I've spoken at countless meetings about mask, vaccine mandates, dress code changes, and social emotional learning. I've had great communication with the board, but I still feel like their personal agendas are playing more of a grave role. I have recently removed my child from Newington Public School and placed her in a private school where her sister was already attending. And to see the vast difference in the quality of the education between the two schools was mind-blowing. The level of the language arts curriculum was so much more in depth and more developed at the public school setting, in the private school setting than the public school setting in terms of sentence structure, subject, predicate, types of sentences, spelling tests, actual homework, editing, and so much more. Their math isn't Common Core. It's math the way we all learned math. The core of their curriculum is not biased behind social emotional learning, equity, and inclusion. It's actual learning of math, English, science, history, critical thinking, and more. Teachers can be creative in the expression of material, teaching children how to think, not what to think. And the diversity of the school is just as diverse, if not all of the schools in the Newington public school system. What are they truly trying to accomplish with our children, distracting us with these common words of equity, inclusion we hear so often in every communication from the school? They use these words so fluently, yet what are they actually teaching our students in this method? It's not transparent, and it's really alarming in my opinion. In the last Board of Ed meeting, the head of the curriculum committee stated that the math scores have declined throughout the entire district. And instead of sitting in policy meetings and board meetings discussing criticism made at council meetings and dress codes, why isn't there policy being created to improve these scores in math? Instead, right now, they're trying to create ambiguous verbiage and new policy, trying to push out verbal comments and considerations from parents and have them transfer via email through chains of command. And even though their documents state, like many do, boards welcomes the comments and criticisms from the public, this new policy is not involving them in this process unless they're part of the chains of command. So a lot of this is alarming to me, especially because the same three participants at these Board of Ed meetings continually go and speak, and nothing seems to be done about it. And really, I still feel like their main agenda is pushing their own agendas in terms of creating these policies and procedures, and that's what's in place for all of our students. And I know you guys, again, don't have control over this, but I do feel like it's alarming that parents are speaking of their concerns, but nothing is actually being done by these elected officials. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Tolosano. Oops, I'm hitting the wrong button here. Okay. I don't see any other members online. If there's anyone else in the room, you can come up. Okay. We'll continue on with our agenda then. We did not receive any email correspondence. Did anyone else?
No, I didn't see any.
Okay. Remarks by counselors on public participation. Let me just switch my window, sorry. Okay, I just wanted to, I'm going to go through a couple of things. So Ms. Daniele, who called in first, I just wanted to say thank you for bringing your concerns to our attention. As a couple of speakers did mention this evening, it's our structure in town is a bit confusing at times, but it sounds like everybody understands that we don't govern the Board of Education. Our only role in terms of the Board of Education is to approve their budget. That being said, that doesn't mean we can't start having conversations with those members of the Board of Education to let them know that your concerns were brought to us and kind of let them know where we stand on the issues that were mentioned. As an educator myself, I work in a school. I don't think masks did anything but harm. That being said, I still notice a lot of people, if they're sick or feel like someone near them is sick, they're putting them back on, and that should be a person's choice, certainly. So I agree with that, and I can certainly share the concerns that were brought forward here this evening to Board of Ed members that I communicate with regularly and make them aware. Sarah, you also mentioned a lot about that as well. And the ARP and the ESSER language in terms of redoing the plan every 6 months. I was not aware of that, so I will broach that subject as well with the Board of Education members to make sure that they're looking into that and making sure they're on top of it. I share a concern that no metrics being given for when masks will return and that kind of thing. I think we don't understand the need for masks fully and when that should happen. So that's not my job to decide, but I certainly understand your concern with that as well. And the graphic novels and the awareness versus acceptance, that really spoke to me, the awareness versus acceptance piece. So again, I will have those conversations with our Board of Ed members. Ms. Lyons, I will make sure, James, I'm sure you'll weigh in on the ethics board piece. I don't know how full it is yet, but you'll,
I believe we have 3 members still left, 1 unaffiliated.
okay.
We are working on those.
Okay, we're working on it and we will get that going. And then Ms. Tolosano, your concerns about the crime in Newington, I can tell you that every counselor here has similar concerns. We have had discussions quite recently through our channels with the town manager's office, with Chief Clark of the police department, to make sure we always, as a council, are asking if there's anything more we can do to support them as a department in terms of staffing or hours or, you know, overtime. We are continually having that conversation. Things that we have put in place, or the department has put in place, not us. The department is doing, I'm trying to think the name of the alert system now that they're using. Oh my goodness.
The reverse 911.
No, they have a new alert system. Hopefully you're signed up. You can go on the webpage and see, if not, where they can send out mass alerts to folks when something does happen.
Atlas one.
Atlas, thank you. Thank you, Counselor Menke. We just initiated, they found grant money for and are piloting a program that helps with the part of the police accountability and part of legislation in general. It's kind of stops or ties their hands in terms of pursuit when a crime happens. And they have implemented a new system. It's, I don't know the name of it, but it's like a puck system where they can actually.
Star Chaser.
Star Chaser.
yeah.
See, these guys are good with the names. They can kind of, if they're close enough to a vehicle, they can, there's a projectile that they can get to adhere to the vehicle that will basically help them track it and then catch the perpetrator later on. I'm not giving up secrets. They've talked about it here at the council meeting. So, and that has been successful so far. So our police department, I will assure you, is looking at new and innovative ways to make sure that they're doing what they can to kind of get around some of the things that are tying their hands. In terms of staffing, we've looked at that, and it's hard enough to keep full the openings that we have. So we haven't added staff because we haven't been at full staff continuously, where they can say we are operating at full staff and we need more. So, but those are conversations that are always ongoing with our police department in terms of what their needs are and what we as a council can do. And in terms of what we can do, it's more funding and staffing and that kind of thing. So, but we are on top of those things. That being said, I understand the concern. I'm seeing a ton of stuff on Facebook again about car break-ins and those issues kind of, they've always been there. They haven't gone away, but it feels like they're rising again and kind of more prevalent again. So I would just assure you that we are on top of it. We are aware as counselors, and we are having those conversations with our town staff and our police chief. So, but thank you for bringing it to our attention. And as everybody mentioned, we are not bosses or overseers or have any control over the Board of Ed, but I will, and I'm sure other counselors will share concerns brought forward with the Board of Ed and make sure we're having some conversations about those things. Anyone else? Counselor Camilla?
Lozano. After the shooting last week, a resident sent a message to Gary Turco, and his response back was, it's the town council's fault because we don't fund the police department.
I don't mean to laugh, but that is funny.
That was his response, and
okay.
He was the deciding vote whether the accountability bill would go forward and ever make it to the Capitol. So as far as curriculum in the schools, we get a big check from the state, and it basically tells our Board of Ed what they're going to teach the kids. It doesn't come from our teachers anymore. Their hands are tied. And it's really a shame, because when I was in school, I looked at teachers like they were my heroes. I mean, it was awesome. And today, a lot of them don't want to be there, but they're paid very well. And they don't want to speak up. They have reached out to me since I spoke out a few weeks ago, and no one else has, but I've been condemned in the paper, on Facebook, everywhere else, but no one else. Mike, where did you come up with that? I lived it. It happened to one of my kids. And in 2020, I sat down with Maureen Brummett in my office. We had coffee a couple times a month. She'd come over, and I explained everything that happened. So when she says she never heard anything about it, well, and this is false, that's what she said in her Board of Ed meeting. It's not. So the best thing we can do is talk about it in public, because you can't reach out to them in a Board of Ed meeting. You try, they won't let you in, or they shut you off. You're blocked. And that's what's happening with a lot of parents and other members in town. Even some of our council members have tried to get into the meeting, and we can't. Things have to change. So there's a few other things we'll talk about next month. Enjoy your holidays, and thank you to the public who spoke up tonight.
Thank you, Councilor Camillo. Councilor Mankey?
Yeah, just quickly, I think everybody in this council is concerned with the crime, especially with recent events in the last couple of weeks. And this council and past councils I've been on have supported our police to the utmost. If you have a question though about why this is happening, I address it to our state legislatures. They're the ones that make the laws. They're the ones that have that power. We can't make laws here in our town. We go by the laws that are made in Hartford. We as a council can support our police, and we do. I think there's no one on this board that doesn't support our police. And I think we're becoming, certainly after the incident in Bristol, certainly well aware of what those police officers, what price they can pay for keeping us safe. And I think that's important not to forget that. So I would just repeat that this council does support our police, and we are concerned about crime, but in some ways our hands are tied because of the laws that are passed in Hartford. And if that's the issue, then you need to talk to those people who pass those laws, not necessarily us who have no power to do that.
We will certainly back you up.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, then we will move on to consideration of old business. First item this evening is amendment to the adopted meeting schedule. We are considering canceling the December 27th, 2022 regular meeting. We had talked about this at our last meeting. It was introduced. So there is a resolution in the packet this evening. Who would like to go ahead and read that? Go ahead, Councilor Donahue.
Resolved, the Newington Town Council hereby amends the adopted 2022 annual meeting schedule and approves the cancellation of the December 27th, 2022 Town Council regular meeting.
Second by Councilor Camillo. Just for the public's knowledge, as always, if something comes up, if we need to meet, we can always call a special meeting to address any issues that may arise. You'll see on this evening's agenda, typically our new business moves to old for action at the next meeting. And this evening we have just one item under new business, which is our meeting calendar for next year, which is fine for us to take action on at the first meeting in January. So that we did consider all of those pieces. Any other council comment? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm just checking, is Sharon still on? Yep.
She raised her hand as a positive.
Okay, got her. I see her. Thank you, Sharon. All right, motion passes unanimously. Next item this evening is public safety radio project leasing. There are two pieces to this tonight. I think one is to give our acting town manager, James, the opportunity to execute documents. The second is the actual lease, a motion to accept the lease and some of the language in the lease. James, I'll turn it over to you.
That is correct. So we've been working on this since 2020. We're finally at the point where we're ready to get this implemented, get the materials purchased. So your first piece is the authorization to allow me to execute the equipment lease purchase agreement with Motorola. That will allow us to order a good 19 pages worth of items that will need to be implemented over the time period. And the second piece to that is similar to what we did when we leased our fire truck. This is a implementation to utilize funding out of our standard CIP accounts so that we're ensured that over that 7-year lease period, we have the required funding to complete the lease agreement. And then at the end of that time period, we have a dollar payout to be able to purchase everything outright.
Okay. Thank you. Council comment or question? Councilor Mankey?
I would just compliment those people. I know this has been a long time coming. It's been in the works for months or if not years. And I know there's a lot of stakeholders, the fire, the EMS and the police. So there's a lot of moving parts and I appreciate everybody's cooperation Everybody's working hard to get this accomplished because this is another example of how we support our public safety and our police by giving them the tools they need to do their job. And I think this is certainly money well spent, and it's certainly time to have this, to move this forward. So I would support this.
Thank you, Councilor Mankey. Anyone else? All right, I too would just say thank you to the entities involved, because we have gone back and forth on vendors and, just how we were going to accomplish it. And so I am really pleased, after talking with several of the entities involved, that everyone is on the same page, and very pleased, I think, with the suggested equipment and program. So I'm really pleased that we're finally at the point where we're moving this forward. And hopefully we'll see it soon. I know supply and demand right now is difficult, so this still may take some time to actually get into functioning with our groups, but at least we're moving it forward and we're getting there. So I'm really pleased that we were able to do this. Anyone else?
I need to read it.
Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and do the first one?
Sure.
Thank you.
Certainly. Resolved, the Newington Town Council hereby authorizes James Kapinski, acting town manager, to execute the equipment lease purchase agreement between Motorola Solutions Incorporated and the town of Newington for the implementation of the public safety radio project. A copy of the executed equipment lease purchase agreement shall be attached to this resolution.
Second by Council Rada. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Sharon's got her hand up for us. Thank you, Sharon. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We now have a second motion. It's a bit longer. Who would like to read that one in?
I can read that in. I'll read it in.
Go ahead. Council Rada, go ahead. Dave, you got the next one.
I was gonna say, I hope it's longer. Whereas the town of Newington, the town, issued a request for proposals for a lease purchase financing for public safety radio equipment from Motorola Solutions, Inc. Whereas Motorola Solutions, Inc., or its designee, the lessor, was awarded the contract as the state vendor, and whereas the town desires to acquire the equipment and enter into a lease purchase agreement to finance the equipment with the lessor, and now therefore be it resolved that 1, the acquisition of the equipment is hereby approved. 2, the bid of the lessor to finance the equipment is hereby accepted. And 3, the town manager is hereby authorized to enter into a lease purchase agreement, the lease, with the lessor for the lease of the equipment for a period of no more than 7 years, and to determine the principal amount, date, terms, and other details of the lease, subject to the following limitations. The amount to be financed under the lease shall be no greater than $4,023,060.55, payable in annual installments of principal and interest at an interest rate of approximately 2.7%. At the end of the lease term, provided all payments required under the lease, including the payment of rent, have been made, the town may purchase the equipment for an amount not more than $1. The lease will include a non-appropriation of funds clause, allowing for termination in the event that sufficient funds are not appropriated to make the payments of rent each year. And be it further resolved that the town manager, director of finance, and other officers or employees of the town, or any one of them as appropriate, are hereby authorized to appoint a bank or trust company to act as escrow agent and to take such action, to make such representations and covenants, and to execute and deliver such contracts, financing statements, agreements, and documents, including but not limited to an escrow agreement and tax regulatory agreement, as is determined to be necessary or desirable to enter into and secure its obligations pursuant to the lease, to ensure the exemption of interest paid on the lease is free from taxation under the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, as amended, and to purchase the equipment, and that the execution of such contracts, financing statements, agreements, and documents shall be conclusive evidence of such determination. Be it further resolved that the town make that edit, expects to incur expenditures, in connection with the project for which a general functional description is provided, turning the page above, The town reasonably expects to reimburse itself for the cost of such expenditures with the proceeds of the obligation described above. The maximum principal amount of such obligation is not expected to exceed $4,023,060.55. This declaration of official intent is a declaration of official intent made pursuant to Treasury Regulations, Section 1-1.150.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by Counselor Menke. Discussion?
I think it's well read.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome, Counselor Nagel.
Yeah.
Be careful what you ask for.
Yes.
No spelling errors, so we're like,
This one.
oh, just one?
Just one.
Any questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Budrako.
Maybe James, you can just explain, and against my lack of probably release, but the very last paragraph where it says the town reasonably expects to reimburse itself for the cost of such expenditures with the proceeds of the obligation described above. How
I can understand what that means. That actually came from bond language when we did the fire truck as well. And I'm not sure if it's because we're utilizing CIP funding that's not normally budgeted funding. And I believe the purpose of this lease is actually in an arrears, if I remember speaking with the representative on that. So it's a very unusual process, but in the end, we pay through the entire lease point, and in the end day, we get to own it for $1 at the end of 7 years.
we're not real, but we're spending money, we're not getting it back. Okay, number one, and then I'm assuming obviously that our attorney reviewed this whole lease purchase agreement.
That was supplied to him ahead of time, as well as it was supplied to the consultant as well for review to confirm the dollar amounts were correct.
I just have a question, you could probably answer this too, since you've been involved. On the very first page of the lease purchase agreement, because we didn't have this with us before, at the very bottom, where it says the lessee, it accepts it, once it's been delivered, it be operational and accepted by the lessee. If the lessee fails to respond in a 5-day period, it will be deemed to have accepted the equipment and have acknowledged the equipment was delivered, blah, blah, blah. I'm assuming that 5 days will be more than sufficient for our emergency, for the users of this equipment to be able to do full testing.
We've actually tested the materials already, so this will just be acquisition. We still have some rollout that we need to do as part of that.
Okay,
But
everybody's
yes.
comfortable with the fact that.
The attorney's already reviewed the lease agreement. He didn't see any issues with it. He's reviewed it probably 4 times already.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments, councilors? All right.
I'll just add before you vote, this will allow us to have this in place and supplied to the consultant by the 21st, which is our cutoff date when we would have to go out to rebid, so.
Which is why we had added it as an informational on our special agenda so that we could take action. All right. No hands are up, so we will move forward with the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item this evening is Town Manager Search Committee Consultants Selection. I will just give a brief overview. We did, as everyone knows, assign folks to serve on the Town Manager Search Committee. The committee has met 2 or 3 times now and did interview some folks. I would open it up for committee comment. I'm an ex officio. I was at the meeting, but I'd rather allow committee members to speak about the process if they'd like. Councilor Menke?
Yeah, if I can just sort of fill everyone in where we're at this point. The council formed a committee to begin the search process. Met a couple of times now. We received from Connecticut Council of Municipalities, I can never say that right, 4 suggestions for search companies that do searches. We got recommendations, we got information from all 4 of them. We met and reviewed the information. We deemed it would be in our best interest to interview all 4 vendors, if you want to call them vendors, I guess. And we did that on a Zoom meeting. most of them are from the South or Midwest. So we had a Zoom meeting. We interviewed all four candidate vendors, and we chose the one that's here before us tonight. It's not, just to clarify, it's not the town manager search committee's job to pick a town manager. It's only to pick a company that's going to do the search for us. The goal of and most of these four companies, they all probably do the same thing. It's potatoes. It's basically the same thing they do for us. They'll conduct a profile, determine what we need for a town manager. They'll send it out to their various sources to look for candidates, and they'll post it in various media. They have social media and different organizations. They'll post it. They'll get the applications back. They'll do a sweep through the applications. They'll kind of do a pre-screening. They'll maybe interview some of the candidates before we do the interview. And then they'll give us a number of recommendations, between 3 and 5, or maybe even 6 recommendations of people we should interview. And then the council as a whole will do those interviews, and the council as a whole will make that determination, not the town manager search committee, but the council as a whole will make that decision. So I just want to make that clear out there. So the town manager search committee is really, we're only expediting the process and sort of getting it going. And this is the candidate. We did meet all 4 of them. I think all 4 were great. Were great firms. All 4 really impressed, I think, all of us that were on the Zoom calls. And I think the one we picked is the one that probably would be the best for us where we sit today.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Mackey. Deputy Mayor Drago or Councilor Page, anything to add?
I do have a question. I thought we were going to have a copy of the draft agreement.
It was given to us separately. Sorry.
Should we talk about that now or after the?
You can talk about it now if you like.
I do have a question. I just want to make sure, because in the proposal on 1.1, it talks about the engagement period for about 4 months, unless extended or sooner terminated as herein provided. And within the proposal itself that we got, the actual length of the search can go 4 days, 4 weeks, 4 months, I'm assuming 4 years. We hope not, but so in terms of the cost, it's not a 4-month window and then we're out of luck. The 24,000 or hopefully less is going to be what we're going to pay until we get a candidate, no matter what the time. Okay.
Directly on that.
And it talks about termination. 7 days prior to the end of the engagement period, either party can give their intent not to renew or extend the engagement agreement. And hopefully this is just, it's not going to happen, but if it does, we're basically, I mean, if we weren't satisfied with what happened up to the point, we're still obligated to spend that money. And there's no refund because we're not satisfied.
Side of the engagement that there's an upfront first payment of 15%. No, not that one.
The percentages are there. Yeah, they're laid out pretty well. There's, I think, 4.
At a 30% at the start, 30%.
30% and 30%, and then at the 10% when we finally get somebody on board. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councilor Mankey?
I assume if we determine the contract, we wouldn't pay any expenses that incurred after the contract. We'd only pay the expenses up to that point. It's just
correct. Unless we ended up having to bring on another consultant.
Right.
Before that, then we'd have to look into that funding as well.
I guess I would just point out too that this process, I think what many of us in the council and probably the town would want this process to happen like tomorrow, overnight, and it is a process, and it's a process that needs to be worked through and needs to get a good result. You need to go all the steps. You can't jump from step A to step Q without going A, B, C, D. You have to work your way through it. So I understand the people's frustration that they want this done, just today. Certainly it would be easier on my mind if it was done sooner. But I think it's a process, and the process has to work to get a good result. And the goal is to get the best town manager for this town that we can get.
Sure.
I will say, Mr. Brown is available if anybody does have any additional questions that they might want to address under the engagement.
Mr. Brown is from the Randy Frank Agency, correct? Great. I do see a couple more counselor hands up. Counselor Rada?
Yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge the work that the consultant search committee has already put in, that this is the first step in the process of obtaining a new town manager. And I want to thank you all for the work. This is just the beginning, as Councilor Mankey said, but it's a good start and a first step. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Counselor Nagel?
I appreciate the work that the subcommittee has done. There are a couple of empty spaces here on the engagement agreement, and under term of agreement 1.1, I assume that's when it's agreed upon when it starts. So I'm not complaining about that, but I'm not really complaining about anything, just need information. Under consulting services, the blank that is there, executive search of Newington Town manager, consultant shall report directly to who? You?
In the conversation that I had with Ms. Frank, she indicated having it start in our office, and then it will transition afterward once I became a candidate if I choose to apply in the position. But she wanted to make sure that we got through the entire process of pulling the town information, creating all the information that will be supplied to the public prior to being able to apply, getting the meeting set up with the required department heads, and getting all that input in first. So that would have mine in there until such time.
So this is something that is done within the town. We don't have to vote on.
Sorry.
Is this something done in terms of town government, you and others? Does the council need to vote on it? And I'm just concerned about a blank space there, and we're voting for it, and we're not certain.
Negotiation process of executing the contract agreement.
So it'll come back to us?
So no, it won't come back to you. You'll notice if you look on the resolution itself, it'll authorize us to negotiate and enter into.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make certain that I knew and everyone knew about who reported to who officially.
Yeah, I
Thank
think
you.
for now it'll be someone in your office, and then eventually it'll probably transition most likely to, it could be either myself or someone on the committee, I would imagine, to kind of handle the back and forth between the consultant and the council. Because if James does decide to apply and is a candidate, he should not be involved in the process whatsoever. So that would then transition over to somebody on the committee, I would imagine.
That's fine, but we and the public who is less privy to these kinds of things would want to know that we're as clear as possible in terms of what the intent is, even though there's an empty spot there at the moment.
And I'm sure they'll recommend the best process for us as well.
I was just gonna say, Mr. Brown is there and I see him unmuted.
Yes.
Did you want to weigh in on that and how you usually handle that, Mr. Brown?
Usually the governing body designates someone to take the lead from their point of view. And then given the circumstances that you're undergoing right now, what the acting town manager has outlined seems pretty reasonable. The process will start with him until such time as he's determined that he wants to compete, and then we'll find another location for that responsibility.
Okay, thank you. Any other, Councilor Mankey?
Just a comment to Councilor Rada. I appreciate your thanks, but this is the easy part. And the council, don't kid yourself. This is the harder part when we get recommendations and resumes and interviews to then have to pick somebody who's going to guide our town through the next, 5, 10, 20, 30 years. That's an awesome responsibility, and that's going to be the hard part. This is just easy. We'll look back at this is nothing, but the next part is going to be difficult.
Mr. Brown, could you just speak to also kind of the guarantee that you provide us? I think it's the 1-year piece, just so the council's aware.
Yeah, and this is something that Randy talked about in the meeting with the committee, and that is that we guarantee that the search would be undergone again in the event that the person selected left within the first year.
Right. So they would be willing to do another search with us within that first year if whoever is chosen through the process, through their firm process. Then we would just be on the hook for expenses, so to speak, but not for another fee to the agency. So. Okay. Any other questions or comments, counselors? All right. Did we already read it? All right. Can I do it, Deputy Mayor? Yes, please. Oh,
No, we did promise Dave.
We did promise Dave he was gonna read it.
You sure?
Sure.
I'll read one word, you read the next one?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, we'll get back to business here. Resolved that the Newington Town Council authorizes the acting town manager, James Krapinski, to negotiate and enter into an agreement with Randy Frank Consulting LLC to perform a recruitment search for town manager. The maximum amount of 4 recruitment services, including but not limited to professional services, advertising, and expenses, shall not exceed $24,000. A copy of the executed contract shall be attached to this resolution.
seconded by Counselor Camillo. Any further discussion?
Well said, well spoken.
All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item this evening is resignations and appointments. And we have a few. I'll turn it over to you, Councilor Mankey.
A resolved, the Newington Town Council hereby makes the following appointments. Kevin Ziegler, to EMS Committee. Kevin Ziegler, 105 Cedar Wood Lane, Party R, term 12/13/2022 to 12/31/2023. Replaces D. and Tarati, de facto since 1/1/2022. Gloria Olstein, 180 Olsen, I'm sorry.
Olsen, yeah.
Olsen. 180 Williamstown Court, Party R, term 12/13/2022 to 12/31/2023. Self-reappointment, de facto since 1/1/2022. Glenn Torrey, 225 East Robbins Avenue, Party R, term 12/13/2022 to 12/31/2023. Self-appointment, de facto since 1/1/2022. Matthew Diaz-Pasito, 227 Eagle Drive, Party R, term 1/1/2023 to 12/31/2024. Vacancy resignation of J. Fortuna. Robert Bly, 23 Cortland Way, Party R, 12/13/2022 to 12/31/2023. Vacancy resignation of S. Woods.
Seconded by Counselor Donahue. Any discussion on the appointments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Resolved, the Newington Town Council hereby makes the following appointments. Metropolitan District. Council appointment, Dominic Payne, 638 Church Street, Party R, term 1/1/2023 to 12/31/2028. Reappointment of self.
Seconded by Counselor Camillo. Any discussion? None. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Resolved, that the Newington Town Council hereby makes the following appointments. Standing Insurance Committee. Andrew Follow, Claims Specialist / Engineer, 183 Williamstown Court, Party R, term 12/13/2022 to 11/30/2023. Fills a vacancy.
Seconded by Counselor Nagel. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. All right, that concludes our resignations and appointments. Thank you, Counselor Menke. Next item this evening is refunds, which is always Deputy Mayor Draco's job.
Resolved that property tax refunds in the amount of $15,916.20 are hereby approved in the individual amounts and for those named on the requests for refund of an overpayment of taxes certified by the revenue collector, a list of which is attached to this resolution.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second by Counselor Donahue. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, we are moving on now to approval of the minutes. We have before us this evening, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the October 25th, 2022 special meeting minutes, October 25th, 2022 regular meeting minutes, November 14th, 2022 special meeting minutes, and November 22nd, 2022 regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Menke. Okay, seconded by Counselor Camillo. And discussion. Deputy Mayor Draco.
Yeah, just a brief correction on the October 25th regular minutes under item 13, council liaison committee reports. The third bullet, it says Deputy Mayor Draco stated that the quarterly meeting of the Public Safety Committee, that was actually should be the Open Space Committee.
Okay. So we have one correction. Anyone else? You good?
I'm good.
All right. So do we need to amend the motion to include the change?
Yes.
I
So will
amend
you
my
amend?
motion to include the change.
Thank you. And will you amend your second? Thank you. All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, next we are moving into new business. We have just one item this evening, which is the consideration or introduction of our 2023 annual regular meeting calendar. James, do you want to start this one?
So scheduled meetings have gone out to all the boards and commissions. Of course, we are one of those. So as an annual requirement under state law, we are required to put forward a schedule for the ensuing year of regular meetings that we'll be holding. I always make the recommendation that we do 13 months so that we're always covered for that following year. So in this case, we have two important dates that we're looking at in 2023. One of them, of course, being election for this board, which is November the 7th, which then translates over to November 14th, which is your organizational meeting for swearing in. Under the new charter, we can now determine if the organizational meeting will meet the same schedule or if you choose to schedule that differently. So if you wanted to start at 6 o'clock on that night for your organizational meeting, you could. But we could stay as the 7 o'clock as standard throughout the year for consistency for the public. The second item that is of interest, let's put that up on the screen so we can see it, is December 28th. So in that year, we have the school system itself is already closed on Tuesday as the way the Christmas holiday falls. Christmas takes place on I believe it's a Sunday and Saturday and the Sunday, or the Sunday and the Monday on that. So Christmas is actually on there, but we have to also do Christmas Eve because that is an approved holiday under our contracts. We had a discussion back and forth whether it should be the Friday or the Tuesday for consistency. We confirmed the Board of Ed was closed on Tuesday as well. So to not open a building for half of an agency didn't make much sense. So we are closed on that Tuesday as well. You could recommend to not hold a meeting as the second one in December, sort of as we did this evening, to cancel our second one as well. Those are the two biggest things that stuck out. We went through the entire years of required holidays and unusual ones that we've seen in this last year. So we don't look like we have any impacts to our calendar this year.
Okay, great. I think I'll just voice my opinion on that. I think the November 14th, it used to be in the charter as an 8 o'clock start time. And one of the revisions that was recommended, I think or we asked the committee to look at, and the committee came back and decided to leave that open. I think it makes sense to keep it at our regular 7 o'clock start
7
time,
o'clock,
which is
yeah.
what we had originally said. 8 o'clock didn't make a lot of sense. So I would recommend that consideration of that. And then December 28th, given that it's been past practice that we typically do cancel the second December meeting, especially with a conflict, I would say we can leave that off the schedule. As mentioned earlier, anytime we have business that we need to conduct, we could add a special meeting if we needed to. It would have to be on a different day than our normal meeting anyway, so a special meeting wouldn't be out of the ordinary to do. So I would suggest, my opinion would be to take that meeting out and just do the one meeting in December. Any other councilors want to weigh in? Okay, then we'll move this to our next agenda, which is the first meeting in January for action.
That's struck on the resolution that comes forward in January for you.
Right. Next item this evening is written oral communications from the town manager, Mr. Kaminsky.
All right, so we have a couple little things coming up over the next month or so. Limited tickets right now for Lucy Robbins Wells Library Winterfest. They're getting down to, I think, their last 10 to 15 tickets, the last I heard. So if anybody has an interest, do it now. CIP requests have been received by all departments. Those are being compiled by the finance department. So we'll start that process and getting those reviewed. We took first interviews for the position of town planner. So we are going to be having that individual come forward and speak with 2 members from the board itself, just to gauge the inputs between each other. Our previous town planner got off to a rough start when she first started out, so we're trying to negate that going forward. Of course, we all saw the wonderful snowstorm that we had the other day, just still holding around. Happy to say that we were one of, I believe, 2 towns that did not have a delay due to the extremely competent members that we have as part of our parks and grounds and highway departments. Town shined, so I'm very pleased with that. We have our draft questions into Great Blue Research for our survey. We should have a draft outline of proposed survey questions probably by the end of December or early January for review. They expect to be able to send it out to the individuals by postcard, as well as we'll be adding it to our website with the protections as we discussed for IP addresses and such. And we hope to have that report back to you hopefully before we start budget deliberations. So you'll have that information to use in that process.
Great.
And I believe that's all I have for you at this time.
You mentioned that the questions will be coming back for review. Who's reviewing them?
We will review them with staff just to make sure there's any other clarification that they want as part of it. We had 6 different departments come forward. We actually addressed some additional ones when we were speaking with Brady, Dan, and Patrick on our Zoom call. And there's pieces that you really want to get. Like right now, we are still discussing how we're going to handle the town hall hours. Based upon the survey going out and getting public input, we are looking at expanding that out until the end of April. Gives us a little bit of time to determine whether or not these are our best hours to work out. Are we open early enough or late enough? Do those days work out better, or is a Wednesday late night better than a Tuesday? So we'll try and get some of that information compiled. We do have some things we're working out with the unions as well. So we want to make sure that we're not confusing people in that process. So we most likely will be extending that for a small time period, but once the information's back, we'll put the questions together. They'll put together the survey. It'll go out and we'll get that information to the council. They'll actually come in and do a full report on that. So.
You good? Okay, I got a bunch of hands up. Deputy Mayor Bedrejko.
Yeah, you indicated for the position of the town planner, they'll be meeting with 2 members of the board.
As well as a member of the opposite party, just to
But,
Gauge the temperature.
shouldn't, I don't know, in my opinion, there's more than one land use board in this town. Conservation is very, I mean, wetlands and, wetlands and conservation.
Conservation can, yep.
Are,
And
is equally important, I think, perhaps even, I mean, economic development, well, we don't have enough, but in terms of those two commissions, I think land use, both of them should be represented.
We can see if we can pull in the chairperson from conservation. This is a really quick turnaround. We were hoping to have it in place a little bit quicker, but unfortunately, both of the individuals from TPZ had just gotten back to us and we were able to get in contact with the proposed candidate for a Friday afternoon interview. So I'll see if I can contact the chairman and if he's available, even if we can pull him in on Zoom.
There's a balance there that I think we have to make sure doesn't get lost. Thank you.
Counselor Rada?
Yes, you just said that staff would be reviewing the draft of the survey questions.
Yes.
My question would be, will the town council have the opportunity to review a draft as well?
We could discuss that. We're trying to make the process go along as quickly as possible. 'Cause at that point, we'd be looking out to January 10th. We could always send it out as informational. And if anybody wanted to respond on it, they could. It wasn't really planned in the process when we were speaking with Great Blue, unfortunately. We were supposed to have started this process a little bit further back as well, but we could do that for you.
Yeah, I would appreciate seeing a draft. Thank you.
Counselor Page?
Thanks, Mayor. Has anyone, James, on this council seen the questions or participated at all in drafting the questions?
Not to my knowledge. We requested it specifically from departments themselves
So none
based
of you
upon
have
services.
participated? Okay, I just wanted to check. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's why I did ask that question, who was gonna review it, because I haven't seen them yet. And I would like to, I agree with Counselor Rada, I'd at least, not that we need to discuss or approve at a council level, because I don't think that's under our scope necessarily, but I think it would be nice if you sent them out informational, and then if there was something glaring or, oh my God, that the council sees and shoots an email back, at least for you and the staff to consider our input would be great.
We can do that.
Thank you.
And I would just also echo appreciation to our crews who clean up the streets. You are always quick to say that. And I appreciate, it was wonderful, the work they did.
Counselor Nagel?
One quick question. The new facilities committee, can you tell me what the status is as of the moment? I've been asked several times, including last night. I know we have one appointment. Can you give any update since some has come from supposedly the town manager, I believe?
We have two individuals. One of them I spoke with this morning. He's confirmed that he's still interested. We were going to bring it forward at this council meeting. I'm trying to minimize the amount of minimal resolutions you have to do. The second individual who put in their interest is actually a member of two other boards at this time, and that ordinance doesn't allow for that. So I need to have a conversation with them first, confirm that they have an interest in being on that board individually only, and then requesting the resignations from those two boards first. If everything goes smoothly, we'll have both of those appointments for you in January, and hopefully we'll have the third one. I understand from Councilor Page, he indicated that the party would be coming forward with some nominations. Hopefully one of them is your membership as well, and that would complete our board.
Our folks are aware of the need for that, so
Yes.
I'll remind them again.
Okay.
Thanks.
You good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I don't see any other hands up, so we'll continue on with our agenda.
I do have one more
Oh,
piece though, which I
I'm
forgot
sorry.
about.
Go
And
ahead.
this was addressed by Ms. Lyons at my absence, which was my first one. She was asking about the ability to call into meetings.
Right.
We've been doing some research with Zoom directly. We have a feature, well, we actually have the 1-800 number is already in place, but there's a feature called personal audio calls, which somehow we're able to pull them into the meeting as well. We're going to be getting more information over the next couple of weeks, and hopefully we'll have that in place for the new year.
Great, wonderful. I forgot in our other council meeting, remembering how to put people on hold and get them
Oh,
to
yeah.
connect. It was always
Putting the
a-
phone by the speaker, right?
Yeah, it
So
was
they
always
can
a,
hear.
The microphone down and, yeah, so hopefully we'll be able to give you an update on that, or at least have it in place.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Next item this evening is council liaison and committee reports. Counselor Nagel?
The library board met last night. They are starting to plan for the annual race fundraiser, which this year is the 21st of May. The library is getting increased people coming in on Sundays, so they're pleased to see that we've supported Sunday hours during this period of time season. Update on the damage repairs for leaks in the library that's been ongoing. It's been done in phases. The library staff is happy that the process is going along. We've been informed they're in the last part of doing it where scaffolding will have to be put up to take care of the sunroof windows that constantly seem to be a problem. Update, Winterfest, as of last night, 3 tickets are left.
Wow.
It's January 20th.
Okay.
Wow.
And the board and staff members are also very pleased and happy with the contracted staff that does the cleaning in the library. They had their annual walkthrough of board members, and everyone was looking at what the building looked like, and they were all really ecstatic about how well that the present contracted cleaning staff is doing. I'd like to pass that on to you. And that's it.
Great, thank you. Counselor Mankey?
Yeah, just Counselor Page and I and Counselor Camello and Mayor Dabino attended the fire commissioners meeting last Thursday, and they were ecstatic to see that the radios are moving forward. They couldn't say enough nice things about the council to move this forward. So I just want to pass on their thanks for the vote tonight.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Badrego?
Yeah, a few meetings ago at the Environmental Quality Commission, Rob Hillman, the town liaison, gave an overview of the leaf collection, which was really interesting. So I followed up with him today just to get the latest, and I just thought I'd pass it on because it's interesting. They had 4 crews working for 6 weeks, and they completed 2 formal rounds throughout the town. And since the weather was favorable, like this year, they were able to get a couple of additional rounds in. And in fact, I talked to Rob today, and as of today, they made the last pickup of 10 piles, and that's it. You know, now the snow plows go on. So there's like 24 full and part-time employees, which also includes some Parks and Rec staff. And on the average, they collect 12,500 to 14,000 cubic yards of leaves annually. And these are brought to the town transfer station. And then from the transfer station, they're actually hauled to a Scott's lawn care products facility, which actually uses our leaves in some of their lawn care products. So it's benefiting everybody and put to good use. But this amount of leaves, this cubic yards, 12,000 to 14,000 cubic yards, is the equivalent of, he told us, 125 to 140 tractor trailers of leaves. And I did some research, and 1 cubic yard of leaves weighs approximately 200 pounds. It was on 2 Facebook sites, so I mean, so it's got to be true. So if you do the math, our crews collect anywhere between 1,250 to 1,400 tons of leaves every year. So they're smiling when they do it. It's a job well done. They're done for the season, and thank you, Rob and Highway Department and everybody who helped them out. But that's an amazing fit. I mean, tons. Thousands of tons. So that's it.
Thank you very much. It's great information, actually. And we all notice them going around town and we all appreciate it, but that's great information. Thank you.
Strong.
You made it very real. Yeah. Counselor Rada?
Yes, just a comment regarding the Anne Reynolds Building Committee. We're meeting this Thursday, but 2 Thursdays ago, when we met, I suggested that it had been a while since the last report to the town council. And the committee was quite amenable to probably in January, working with us and setting a date to come and give us an update on what's going on with Ann Reynolds.
Great. I already see James writing it down, so.
Oh, you write it down, then I won't write it down. I'm saying both of us right
Upstairs already for next year.
All right, deal. Thank you.
next year. That's
Next year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Gary, just say it.
All right, I don't see any other hands up. We'll continue on. Next item this evening is public participation. Anyone may come forward to speak to the council, either in person, just state your name and address for the record. We do ask that you stick to our 3-minute time limit. If you are participating in the Zoom application, you can raise your hand in the participants window or on your phone using *9. Welcome, Mr. Leverrier.
Hi, good evening, Richard Leverrier, Winterberry Court. I am a member of the Board of Education in town, and I'm speaking to you tonight regarding a meeting that was had at Newington High School on Thursday, December 8th. This meeting was regarding an environmental contamination at the high school over the summer. This meeting was attended by myself, a member of the Board of Education, Anastasia Yap, Lucian Giacomowitz, the Newington Public Schools Chief Financial Officer, Jason Plum, Newington Public Schools Head of Facilities, Ms. Kristen Day, State of Connecticut Department of Public Health Environmental Analyst 3, Jordan D. Alves, United States Environmental Protection Agency out of Boston, who is an asbestos and lead inspector, Mr. John Luby, Newington Public Schools outside consultant environmental expert. And for the final approximately 10 to 15 minutes of that meeting, the superintendent, Dr. Maureen Brummett. Basically, there was, I'm speaking here tonight to talk about in various inspections and situations that went wrong with the whole environmental contamination at the high school. The area that was contaminated was marked as being positive for asbestos, or quote hot, back in 1999. And the state noted at that time that there were certain violations relating to missing surveillance and missing signage flagging the presence of asbestos in that room. No notice of non-compliance was issued because it was expected that that would be resolved expeditiously, and that it was noted that any asbestos in that room would be remediated or removed prior to any renovations. This room is 3,500 square feet, and it is worth noting that there is no overlapping HVAC with anywhere else in the school, which is great news. At the time of the project where the contamination occurred, the LEA for Newington Public Schools was retired. And the head of facilities at that time was not trained, certified in asbestos dealing. And according to Ms. Day, at that time, the superintendent was responsible, acting in lieu of that LEA, or in my terms, a pseudo LEA, because at that time the facilities director, Mr. Plum, was not yet trained and licensed. There were two diagrams of the subject north roof. There was an architectural map listing the affected area as a quote locker room, and an environmed map listing the area as a quote boiler room. And prior to any renovations, it does appear that the map that was provided to the town and the contractor, it does appear that it was only the architectural map listing the area as a locker room. Anyway, what am I doing here? What's my goal? Why am I coming here tonight? We've had discussions about improving communication between bodies of the town and the Board of Education. I'm here tonight because I want to take that first step in making sure that we do bridge that gap. And I thank you for your time. I'm probably over. I definitely am. But thank you for allowing me the time to speak. And I wanted to update you and the people of our great town of where we're at this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leverrier. We do have one person online, so I'm going to go ahead and ask Ms. Lyons to go ahead.
Hi, Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. My question was going to be, and maybe this has taken place and I've missed the meeting. Has there been any report to the town council as to the monies that were given to the town from the state grant and for the town hall renovation for the Board of Education portion of the building? And is there going to be a final report and that committee be disbanded? But in listening to the Board of Education member, Mr. Lavier, I think his name is, I'm not quite sure, I am wondering why he's in front of you without the rest of the Board of Education. As a resident who has listened to the Board of Education meetings and the council members' comments about what goes on with the Board of Education, once again, comments are being made at one meeting or the other without another body being present. I find that I would appreciate the facts being presented with both bodies in the room so that they can go back and forth and discuss the issue and not just have one side. Now, whether or not what was presented tonight is the truth, I assume it is, as he was part of the meeting, but it leaves a lot of questions and a lot of speculation, and I don't think we need that. Just personally, I don't think that it was the right time or the place for it to be presented tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lyons. Any other member of the public may come forward. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Anastasia, 8th Street, Newington, Connecticut. I come before the town council to speak in regards to the same instance. We had a meeting on December 8th. As Mr. Leverrier stated, it was myself, Mr. Leverrier, Lou Giacomovich, Jason Plum, John Luby, Kristen Day from the environment, from the state, and Jordan Alves from the US EPA in Boston. When we had this meeting, he is correct. The meeting went on for approximately 2 hours. I did send the town council, the mayor, everyone included. And if I did not, I will make sure you receive this, an email, because the superintendent did send out a memo to the board that was inaccurate. And when I corrected her memo, I did include her on this. She was not at the meeting. Prior to walking into the boiler room, about 2 minutes, she had come in, and then we left to the boiler room where Mr. Leverrier and the US EPA did take photos. In that meeting, which I am going to have a meeting with her on, so she will be included, a lot of concerns are coming up. One of the concerns that came up is that Kristen Day from the state was unaware of the Board of Ed building being demolished. And that concerned me. I wasn't a resident of this town at the time. She had stated that in 2015, she thought that 2 buildings were inspected. One was the high school and the other was the Board of Ed previous building that was here. She corrected it and said the high school actually had not been inspected. That was their mistake. She was new to position. The high school and no other school had been inspected since 1999. It was correct that when Mr. DeVita, who I don't know, was here, they did issue missing surveillance, missing signs, no notice of noncompliance, but it was just a minor violation. At that time, the only building to be inspected was the Board of Ed building, which does not exist. When I told her that 131 Garfield is now a parking lot, she was shocked. She said no one had told her that that was a parking lot. So we did provide her with a new address. I'm not sure to the miscommunication with that, but in her record, she didn't have that. I spoke to Ms. Day, and I did explain to her that I was quite concerned. As a member of the Board of Ed, we did get notification. Kristen Day emailed myself, Sophie, and Dr. Brummett on November 10th. I don't double check with the town council, I should. And I wondered, no matter which party, I wanted someone from the town council to be present. When I asked why no member of the town council was present, the answer I received from, I think, John Luby was that they couldn't make the meeting, including the new town manager. I actually have the correspondence, which I have no problem providing to anyone who needs them, which show that we originally got notification on November 10th. The meeting was December 8th. So I would hope that any of the members of the town council would have been able to make that meeting, because I felt it was important. One of my goals is open, an open communication. I don't care what party it is. And I really feel that it was detrimental to our future relationship to have two members of the Board of Ed there and purposely leave off the new town manager and the town council. It really concerned me. And Kristen Day actually responded to me. The only people on this email, and I will make sure that this is known publicly, are myself, her supervisor, who she's now included, which was not at the meeting, as well as the EPA's Jordan Alves, the supervisor, myself, and the new town manager. We are the only people on that email. She, wasn't aware that the town council, the mayor, and the town manager weren't invited. She thought they weren't available. So that's why we proceeded with the meeting. And that's really concerning. I am going to advocate publicly, as I am the chairman of finance on the Newington Board of Education, that we have a joint meeting. In the email that I sent, and I will make sure that I give everybody this email. I think everyone's on it, but if they're not, please reach out to me. I will send it to you. I advocated that Ms. Kristen Day from the state, as well as Jordan Alves, and I will provide you her business card because it's in the email as well. Feel free to reach out, that she come and have a joint meeting with the town council, the Board of Ed, the mayor, the same way we've had a joint meeting before. I think that's extremely important because in order to mend this relationship or just work on moving forward, we need to have that open dialogue. And purposely excluding, which she did say, she reached out and asked if everybody could be there, purposely excluding the town council, the mayor, and the new town manager is not okay. Because questions could have been answered in that room that weren't answered. I'm sorry, I know more than 3 minutes. So I did do that. She stated that there, and I'm just gonna read this as I quote, from Kristen Day at 2:01 p.m. I'm working on a brief reporting of my findings and will discuss with Mr. Vanoy. Mr. Vanoy is her supervisor on the state level. Ms. Garrison, which is Jordan Alves, is supervisor at the US EPA in Boston, and Mr. Alves prior to issuance, which in all likelihood will be addressed to Dr. Brummett, so she will be receiving this notification. Apparent violations will be noted, and the district given an opportunity to respond with documentation to satisfy both the RSCA and EPA. Some of the violations that, Lou and
I do have to ask you to try to wrap up,
Okay,
only because I'm
sorry.
trying to stick to our
Some of the
rules.
violations that were there is the AMP plan is still incorrect as of Thursday. All the warrior reports are missing from the book. That's tons of pages. 46 pages were incorrect with the addresses not matching the school. So showing the asbestos cleanup occurred at Martin Kellogg when the name says Newington High, and many other things were incorrect. So I am gonna wrap this up, but I would like to, and I've extended this, and I did tell Kristen Day, I would like for a joint meeting for her to come down, even with her supervisor, so we can all, as two bodies, work together and get this fixed and move forward and continue to be the amazing town we are in Newington. Thank you.
Any other members of the public that would like to come forward? Okay. All right, next item this evening then is remarks by counselors. Counselor Page.
Well, thanks, Mayor. First, I want to apologize for my absence towards the end of our last meeting. That's on me. I had scheduled another obligation that evening, thinking that we were going to have just a perfunctory meeting and not voting on things. And I'm aware, Mayor, you did not know we were going to vote. I'm aware of that. And it was the last minute, so I'm cool with
Thank
that.
you.
I'm not
Thank you.
casting aspersions. It was last second at the door that we found that out. But I apologize for not being here and not being in the vote. I would have voted in the affirmative to obviously to move forward in giving authority to our acting town manager to move forward with the agreement for Anthony Properties. As I think we all agree, we want to continue to grow our town. It says right on the sign behind us. I would want to just reiterate some disappointment and consternation at points that were raised by Clark Castell. I want to thank Mr. Castell for not only for all the work he's done for our town over the years, but for his due diligence in requesting through an FOI information about the process, more of the process and the content of the development agreement that was struck some concerns that I was not aware of until actually the FOI and the materials that were released had to do with what appears to be, and I was aware of this at the time, that this body voted, which I voted against, on the abatement for taxes, which I thought was not putting the town residents in the best position. But nonetheless, I also was concerned, I expressed then, and I'll reiterate, as did Mr. Costello, that we see no evidence of any appraisal that was requested for the property. And if you or I are selling a property or engaging in, whether it's $1,000, $100,000, or a multi-million-dollar deal, we would get an appraisal on a property so that an objective third party assesses the value of that and yields the greatest benefit for our residents. I feel like in not doing that, we, among other things, yielded to the developer unnecessarily and didn't put our taxpayers' benefits first, their pocketbook first. I've heard anecdotally, and I do not know if this is true because I'm not an appraiser and I don't know the value of that property, that it's potentially worth $5-6 million. We sold it, I believe, for about 1.5. We also took responsibility for about $500,000 or more of further remediation. And so that's a big concern. My other concern in terms of process is that it took Mr. Costello months and months and months through FOI to get information about how the agreements were drafted and some of those details. And I think that is not, as I believe Councilor Petracca, but you can speak for yourself, alluded to in your comments in the special meeting. I was on Zoom for that there were concerns as we strive for transparency, and we all work towards that and openness of government. That was not consistent with our values of transparency. And I think it's an ethical failing. And ultimately, I take, and I think we all take responsibility as a council, that our town managers reports to us, and through the town manager, all our staff. And I don't think we did as good as we could have for that deal. I think in the end, although the means don't justify the end in this case, I think the end will be hopefully a beautiful development, one that is an enhancement to our tax base and stabilizes further our mill rate. And that's that on Anthony property. I would also just say, in response in part to some of the comments made tonight about our police department and concerns about resources and support, I agree with Councilor Mankey. Everybody here fully supports our police department. And I'll hand this out later. I have copies for everyone, including our acting town manager. An article that was brought to my attention the last couple of days in the Connecticut Insider, which I think is an aggregation of news sources throughout the state. It's an excellent article, and what it does is detail. I've already spoken at another time with Chief about this, Chief of Police, Chief Clark, and right now this idea is on hold for good reasons. The chief articulated to me, which is concerns about the safety of any non-trained police officer riding along with police officers. So I'm not suggesting we ask the chief to do what I'm about to say, but I want to bring this to our attention and at some point engage in a further discussion about how we can more efficiently utilize very scarce resources, because we try to run a tight budget in town, as we should, which is that in this article, it speaks to several towns, Middletown and other, I believe Groton and other towns in Connecticut, who are working with schools of social work, University of St. Joseph, Eastern Connecticut State University, and are judicially involved social workers who are trained in crisis intervention, suicide assessment, and other domestic violence related issues, to work with police officers, and also to take some of the high flyers, folks who unfortunately suffer from mental illness, for whom the police department does not get the support and shouldn't, in my opinion, be taken away from the other tasks of law enforcement. And if we could down the road have ongoing conversations about possibly utilizing a resource such as a crisis intervention social worker to support the police officers, and to also take some of those calls or assistance situations and free up our police officers to do what they do best. So that was, and I'll have that article for you all to look at. And it was like 2 days ago in Connecticut Insider, very good article. And it's being done in several towns. And I think that's the end of my comments. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Camillo?
Getting back to our first public participation, one of the people that spoke said that they took their daughter and they put her in a private school and she's excelling and totally different curriculum. Might be something to look at is vouchers for people who don't want to have their kids in our school system. It's half the price to go to a private school. you know, and we're spending $20,000 on a kid here in town when you can spend, it's $7,500 to $10,000 to go to a private school. And it would help the parents because they're not happy getting what they're getting here. So that's something to look at. And it would help the town too, if you think about it, because you got one less kid that you're spending 20 grand on because you're spending 10 on. And the kids would benefit from it too. So.
Thank you. Counselor Mankey?
Two things. I would like to wish everybody in the council happy holidays.
Thank you.
It is fast approaching the end of the year. I just got used to writing 2022 and I'm going to go 2023. As I was preparing my house for the holidays, which is a big effort on our house, we do a lot of decorating. It struck me that only about 4 weeks ago, 2 police officers were killed and they don't get to celebrate the holidays this year with their families. And that must be tragic for their families. And it seems like most of us have forgotten by now. It happened. We think about it once in a while, but it's not like it was so sharp when it first happened. And I would just maybe urge everybody in town to just recognize that and maybe put up a blue light, like a blue candle. You know, everybody has those candles in the windows. Well, change one bulb from white to blue. It's important, and not just for these 2 officers that were killed, but we had the same thing happen to our town years ago where we lost an officer. And they don't get to spend the holidays with their families anymore because they're not here. And their families suffer because they're not here. And their friends suffer because they're not here. And we all suffer because they're not here. So maybe just this season, put up a blue light. You know, they sell blue lights all over the place. Just to remind us that you know, life is short. We should enjoy those people we get to enjoy, our friends, our families. And it can be taken away, especially if you're a police officer who is trained to protect us and trained to stand in between us and the bad people. And they do it willingly. What God knows why they would do it, because I don't think I would. But they do, and we should just recognize that. So if you get a chance, put up a blue light someplace. I think it's fitting to remember those people, and I think it'd be a good thing for us all to remember. So happy holidays to everybody on that note, not to be the downer, but happy holidays, and we'll see you in the next year.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Bedrejko?
Yes, and there's been a couple of comments tonight about the fact, you know, about supporting police and in terms of, you know, resources are scarce and, you know, our town is doing the best we can and doing the best what we need to do to support our police. But one thing I have to comment on, just like as the state has put many unfunded mandates on our schools, which impacts our municipal budget. There are many unfunded mandates coming from the state towards our law enforcement agencies. Good intentions, but the laws are passed, the mandates for training, for equipment, for there was a recent article in the paper about now if an individual is deemed to be by anyone a threat to themselves or to someone else, I mean, anybody can report that, but according to our chief, many times now, instead of one officer responding, it's going to take 2 officers to respond because you have to get a search warrant and whatever. And it's so these type of laws or requirements that are put upon our law enforcement cost money, and the towns aren't getting the reimbursement from the state that needed to carry out some of these requirements. So I would hope that our state legislators consider that when they do have these unfunded mandates placed upon the town. Secondly, I would remind individuals that taxes are going to be due by the end of the month for the second installment for those who pay their taxes in installments. And third, this Saturday at the cemetery,
West Meadow
Cemetery, at noon, there's the Wreaths Across America program. So I would hope that as many residents would come out and support that.
At noon.
At noon, yes.
Yes.
That's it. Thank you. Take one pass down. Counselor Rada?
Yeah, just a quick note. The Connecticut Council of Municipalities on their website offers what they're calling the civility pledge. And many towns or representatives of our 168, 69 towns have taken that pledge. It's very brief. Unfortunately, I didn't bring it with me, but and if you have, do you have it?
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, no, I will read it if you have it.
Yeah.
I just, with everything that we've talked about tonight and the conversations we've had in the past, and I think how we all would like to address issues and communicate with one another. It says, I pledge to build a stronger and more prosperous community by advocating for civil engagement, respecting others and their viewpoints, and finding solutions for the betterment of my town or city. So I just would encourage folks to go on the website, Connecticut Council of Municipalities, and you can type in civility pledge and it'll bring you to that, and you have the opportunity to read it, sign it if you like, and send it back.
Thank you.
James is all over it.
Anyone else? Okay, I'm gonna just comment on a few things. As you know, two members of the Board of Ed came forward this evening to bring to our attention some issues that were brought to their attention. And, you know, first of all, I understand what Ms. Lyons is saying, that she believes there should be dialogue between the two bodies, and I absolutely agree. And I think we need to do that, but I do appreciate you bringing those concerns at least to our attention, because I was not aware, I was not in the loop that meeting was happening. I was not aware of anything that was going on, and I would never have been if Anastasia hadn't texted me to let me know the meeting had already happened. It was after the fact. I know you said you sent emails. I have not checked my email. I'm dealing with a death in the family this week, so I've been pretty consumed, and I'm trying to keep my head above water, but I will look for that and read through that, whatever you sent us. I'm sorry, I got family members calling, so I apologize. I do think it's time to perhaps discuss having a joint meeting. You know, what people don't understand is the Board of Education, while the town owns buildings and, you know, we, you know, pay for those buildings and that kind of thing, the Board of Ed has by state statute, the right to kind of govern those buildings and maintain those buildings and do their daily business in those buildings. So I was surprised to hear that not any member of the town, I wouldn't expect a counselor to be invited necessarily, but I was surprised that the town manager or a town staff member was not part of that visit. So so we will follow up on that. I had a conversation with James about that when I, you know, heard about the meeting. So we will follow up on that and try to make sure that the town side, so to speak, is involved in any upcoming meetings regarding the issues with the buildings. And I think that it is time for us to talk about a joint meeting. So we'll look at seeing what we can do and whether the parties are amenable to setting that up. So I just feel like there's an elephant in the room that nobody mentioned yet. So I want to at least mention it, right? And Ms. Lyons mentioned the state of Connecticut reimbursement. We do get emails here and there, and I don't know the last one we got, kind of updating us on projects, but we can certainly, James, if you would just at least get something, even if it's a written memo to the council that, or something that we could read for the members of our public to know where we're at on the reimbursements for the Board of Ed piece of this building, so to speak. We can go ahead and get that information and get that out. The national welding piece, we did kind of talk a bit last week about Mr. Costello's comments, and I think many of us validated his concerns. But Councilor Page brought up the idea of the appraisal. Can we just get information? I thought we did an appraisal.
I will confirm that. I believe looking through the folder this afternoon when I was on with Mr. Shu and a couple other gentlemen, I believe I did see an appraisal in there.
Right.
So I will confirm that.
I feel like that's a misinformation, but I don't want to definitely say that. I want to make sure we check on that. But I think that might be a piece of misinformation out there that we didn't do that piece. So I want to make sure. And last but not least, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year to everyone. I know, but I get to finish first. They're all pointing at me because someone else wants to go. I'm finishing first. I just want to make sure everybody out there, whatever you celebrate, whatever you choose to do, I hope you have an incredible holiday season and a very happy new year. And I've said this at our tree lighting, and I said it at Talk to the Mayor, but I'm gonna say it again. Our town is incredibly kind and considerate, and just take time this holiday season. I hope you can notice acts of kindness around you and also forward those to others, because I think we are an incredible town and we always do that, but let's take an extra measure this holiday and make sure we're looking out for each other. Counselor Camilla.
And in your prayers, the mayor and her family.
Yes.
Also, I believe Richard is the liaison for the Board of Ed for us. So thank you for coming today.
Thank you. All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded by you, the guy with the funny hat that I disagree with tremendously. It's killing me to look at. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We stand adjourned at 9:06. Thank you, everyone.
Choking on it.
Oh,
Man, you gotta rub it in.